Hey guys, tonight we're trading your cozy blanket for a woven sling of coca leaves, your soft pillow for a jagged rock beneath the stars, and your warm bed for a 14,000-foot mountain pass in the Peruvian Andes. Why? Because tonight, you're a chasqui, a royal messenger in the Inca Empire, and your workday begins before the sun does. The sky is still dark when a conch shell trumpet echoes through your village. You're up immediately. There's no snooze button here, unless you count the puma lurking behind the tamarillo tree. You've trained for this moment since you could walk, and now you run. Not for exercise, not for fun. You run because if you don't, the Empire slows, and that can get you killed. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, let me know where you're watching from, and what time it is over there. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You tighten your chuspas, those little pouches dangling at your waist, check the placement of your message quipu, and pull your llama wool tunic snug. The morning air bites hard. Even with your legs wrapped in hand-woven leggings and your feet in rawhide sandals, the cold needles your skin. The highlands do not care if you slept poorly last night or if you skipped dinner. The Inca Road is already calling, and it doesn't wait. As you step onto the packed dirt path, you pass quiet stone homes nestled in terraces. Your abuela's voice still echoes in your head from last night. No one outruns the mountains, Mijito, but try not to let them eat you today. Comforting. At the edge of the village, you pause to chew a mouthful of coca leaves. It tastes earthy and bitter, like chewing on a sock dipped in tea, but it keeps your heart from hammering out of your chest too fast. Historians still argue whether coca was more of a stimulant or a sacred offering. Right now, you're just hoping it stops the nausea. Your first few steps are deceptively gentle. The earth here is familiar, the trail is wide, but up ahead, it rises like a nightmare. You'll be jogging along cliffs with no handrails, through forests where everything wants to sting you, and over rope bridges that creak louder than your knees already do. The road feels alive. It was built by thousands of hands, men, women, and even conquered peoples forced into labour. They laid each stone to serve one man, the Sapa Inca, who sits in Cusco like the sun himself, watching all. You are his feet, his voice, his messenger. No pressure. As you round a bend, dawn splashes orange across the peaks. It's beautiful, sure, but it also means you've got exactly 12 hours to reach your relay station, dodge every hazard nature throws at you, and still remember the Emperor's decree about the llama wool tax. Miss a single detail and you're not just failing a task, you're dishonouring the Inca. And dishonour here? Not a slap on the wrist. Try execution by cliff toss. The forest stirs, a hawk cries above. Your breath fogs the air and your stomach grumbles. Breakfast? A handful of cornmeal and maybe a sliver of dried meat if you're lucky. Some chasqui have been known to survive entire days on nothing but coca and sheer terror. Your sandals crunch against gravel. You pass a crumbling way marker carved with sun symbols. The gods are watching too, and they're moody. Solar eclipses? Considered bad omens. You've seen a guy refuse to run on an eclipse day. He got reassigned to latrine duty in the Amazon, forever. At your side, swinging with every step, is your lifeline, a bundle of knotted cords known as a quipu. It looks like a macrame hobby gone rogue, but it holds everything from numbers to crop inventories to royal messages only special quipu readers can decode. You're not allowed to peek. You're just the flesh and blood delivery app and your battery level, already in the red. To lighten your mood, you whistle a melody. It echoes off the cliffs like a nervous bird. Somewhere behind you, another chasqui has probably just begun their own sprint from a different village. You might pass them later. Or not. Some never make it past the ravines. Just up ahead is your first real challenge. A steep incline the locals call the lizard's spine. It zigzags up a ridge so narrow you have to lean into the mountain just to stay upright. And if the rocks shift underfoot, well, let's just say they don't recover the bodies up here. They just carve a new detour and move on. And as your legs begin to burn and your lungs gasp for the thinning air, you finally realise this isn't just a job. It's a trial. You're being tested by the Empire, by the gods, and by the land itself. And guess what? The day hasn't even properly started yet. The ridge levels out just enough to stop your thighs from screaming, but not enough to let you slow down. Your legs still pump, rhythmically and relentlessly, the way they were trained to do. Behind you, the village has vanished into the mist. In front of you, there's only the next bend in the road and a stomach-turning drop beside it. You jog onward, each breath now loud in your ears, pushing past the first milestones of exhaustion. Welcome to the job. No time for breaks. No turning back. You said goodbye to your village this morning, but in truth you said goodbye to comfort, certainty, and possibly your kneecaps. This leg of the trail descends sharply into cloud forest, dense, wet, and bristling with noises that definitely aren't wind. The temperature has jumped 10 degrees in the last hour, and your tunic clings to your back like a wet rag. It smells faintly of llama. Of course it does. As branches whip your arms and fog condenses on your eyelashes, you think briefly about the family you left behind. Your little cousin, who wants to be a chasqui too, he doesn't know yet that the job comes with a side order of daily terror. Your mother, who packed you a flattened potato cake wrapped in maize husk. You ate it somewhere between mile marker 2 and existential despair. In the jungle below, the trail splits into 3. You know exactly where to go. Because chasqui aren't just runners, they're living maps. Trained from childhood, you've memorized dozens of routes, each with its own elevation quirks, weather patterns, and danger zones. You know which stream is drinkable, which boulder marks the fork to Machu Picchu, and which clearing is home to that one really angry monkey. There's no GPS here, no signs. Just you, your senses, and the instinct not to die. You dart left, ducking under a branch, barely missing a spider the size of a coin purse. A fringe tidbit most people don't know? Inca messengers sometimes ran barefoot to better grip the slippery ground. You've tried it once, got stung twice. You pass a toppled tree, jump over a rivulet of dark water, and startle a capybara into running. For a moment you envy it. At least it doesn't have to memorize tax quotas or carry coded cords to foreign governors, but the road isn't empty, not entirely. You catch the shimmer of movement ahead, a figure kneeling by a stone marker. Another chasqui, maybe half your age, tightening his sandal strap. His eyes widen when he sees you. You early, he mutters in Quechua, rising. You grin through your sweat. Or you're slow. He gives a weary chuckle. There's camaraderie in the road, however fleeting, but you don't stop. You never stop. You keep running. Always running. Even when your stomach turns, your lungs wheeze, and your joints scream like rusted hinges. You eat while running. You relieve yourself behind bushes in the gaps between strides. The Inca road waits for no one. As you descend toward a clearing, the jungle opens to reveal a rickety rope bridge. Ah, yes, everyone's favourite stress test. The bridge sways slightly even in the calm air. Below it, a chasm so deep the mist itself refuses to fill it. The ropes are woven from ichu grass, and the bridge is maintained by locals every few months. Hopefully not next month. You grip the side ropes, place one sandal on the planks, and whisper a prayer to Illapa, god of weather and war. Historians still argue whether bridges like these were really maintained across their full length, or if chasqui were just expected to leap over gaps. You hope it's the former. You're halfway across when it happens. Twang! One of the ropes pulls slightly, no more than a twitch, but your body freezes. This is the moment, you think. This is when I plummet. My bones will rest in the riverbed like so many others. You don't fall, but your heart tries to. Once across, you kiss your hand and touch the earth. That was a little too exciting for your taste. Not that you have a choice. The sun is higher now, the air grows sticky. Mosquitoes circle your face, each one a tiny, determined vampire. You swat lazily as you move through banana groves, the scent of ripe fruit drifting past your nose. You're not allowed to stop and eat. That's for tambo stations, rest points where food and water are rationed with military precision. And you're still hours from the next one. Your only snack right now is what you carry. Chuño, a freeze-dried potato that tastes like compressed cardboard and chews like regret. You bite into one anyway. It's fuel. It's awful, but it keeps you upright. You spot another sign of civilization ahead, a pile of rocks carefully arranged in a spiral. Locals leave offerings here. Coca, feathers, tiny carvings. You add a sliver of chuño, not because you're pious, because you want the gods to look the other way when you sprint through snake territory in 20 minutes. The forest starts to clear again. The incline returns, and with it the wind, dry, fast, full of dust and pollen and tiny insect wings. You feel a sneeze coming and pray it doesn't throw off your balance. There's no margin for error here. One stumble could twist an ankle, and twisted ankles don't deliver messages. Above, a hawk circles, probably judging your posture, and somewhere far, far ahead your destination awaits. A tambo, a fellow chasqui, a place to hand off the message, catch your breath, and collapse like a dignified sack of potatoes, if you make it. Your thighs are turning into jelly and your lungs feel like they've been replaced by a pair of screaming guinea pigs. But still, you run. Because running isn't just your job, it's your identity. You're a chasqui, and chasquis don't walk, not unless they're injured or dead. And even then, someone's probably yelling at them to pick up the pace. The path narrows again, winding sharply through switchbacks like a serpent carved into the side of the mountain. Loose gravel skitters beneath your sandals. You angle your weight forward, lean into the slope, and let muscle memory take over. You've done this run, or ones like it, hundreds of times in training. But that was practice. This is your first real message run, and it shows. Your heart pounds a staccato rhythm in your ears. The sun glares overhead, warming the tips of your ears and baking the road beneath your feet. You reach up, wipe a streak of sweat from your forehead, and keep going. You weren't born into this. You were built into it. From the time you were 5, you were running up hills while other kids played. Your instructors drilled you in high-altitude sprinting, memorization, and survival. You practiced with sandbags strapped to your shoulders and rocks in your shoes, not because they were sadists. Well, maybe a little. But mostly because they knew one thing. The Inca Road is unforgiving, so you must be more than human to survive it. Most people today think of the Inca Empire as a peaceful utopia with nice stonework and spiritual vibes. But you know better. It's a machine. A glorious, humming, terrifying machine that only works if every cog turns precisely on time. And you are one of those cogs. As a chasqui, you're elite. You're respected. Feared even. You can show up at a village with nothing but a knotted string and people bow. But that respect is earned with blisters, blackened toenails, and the occasional snake bite. There's no armour, no weapons. Your tools are your legs and your lungs, and maybe your brain, if it hasn't turned to coca-mashed goo by mile 10. Speaking of tools, you reach down and adjust your pututu, a trumpet carved from a seashell. It hangs from a cord across your chest. Not exactly Spotify, but it works. You blow into it, and the sharp note echoes down the valley. That's the signal for the next tampu to get ready. A chasqui is coming through. The pututu sound was standardized throughout the empire. Each chasqui station could recognize tones and rhythms that meant different kinds of messages. Historians still debate whether there were coded signals embedded in the blasts, or if it was more like an Amazon delivery notification. Either way, you just blasted incoming, and now someone's probably prepping a fresh runner and a boiled maize snack. You jog past a small shrine, just 3 stones stacked beneath a crooked tree. You touch your fingers to your lips and then to the top rock, a superstitious habit. One you picked up during training when a senior chasqui slipped on a wet route and tumbled 30 feet down a ravine. He survived, but barely. Ever since, you leave tiny offerings where the road feels angry. Your instructors were relentless. They beat rhythms into you with drums. You'd run until your feet bled, then run more. You practice carrying Qhapaq in storms through animal attacks while reciting tax reports aloud. At night, you slept in woven slings hung from trees to avoid ground predators. And the worst part, you loved it. Because being a chasqui is the only job where you can sprint for 20 miles, nearly vomit from altitude sickness, and still be seen as a national hero. You're the blood vessels of an empire stretching over 2,500 miles, coast to jungle to snow-capped spine. And not everyone can do what you do. In fact, you start remembering one poor recruit, a boy from a lowland village. Nice kid. Good lungs. But he couldn't memorize routes worth a guinea pig's sneeze. On his test run, he got lost in a maize field, panicked, and tried to swim across a stream that was clearly marked "Do Not Swim." They found him 2 days later, mildly pruny and deeply embarrassed. He's probably harvesting quinoa now. But you passed every test. You earned your red and yellow headband, your woven badge of service. It's not fancy, but every time someone sees it, they know. This one runs for the sun. And speaking of the sun, it's directly overhead now, blazing with imperial authority. You've been running for hours and it's starting to show. Your lips are dry, your breath is sharp, and your shoulders ache from the weight of the Qhapaq cord you haven't even looked at. A cool breeze hits your face as the path begins to curve northward. You round a massive boulder and spot something that makes your heart lift. The Tampu. It's a small way station, a squat stone hut with a straw roof, perched like a bird's nest on the edge of a cliff. Smoke curls from a cook fire nearby, and a young woman in a bright tunic stands outside watching you approach. She waves once, then ducks inside. You hope she's boiling something other than leaves. As you jog closer, your feet barely feel the ground. The smell of cooked corn hits your nose like a love letter. Your mind fixates on it so hard you almost trip over a sleeping dog curled beside the door. Inside the Tampu, another Chasquis is waiting. He's tall, older, and already halfway through a roasted potato. He grunts at you, stands and wipes his hands on his tunic. You nod at each other silently. This is the relay moment. You untie the sipu from your belt, hand it over, and give the verbal message you were taught to memorize word for word. No errors, no hesitation. He listens, nods, ties the cord around his own waist, then turns and bolts down the trail without another word. And just like that, your part of the chain is done. For now. You collapse onto a bench. Your legs throb, your back screams, and your lungs wheeze like an old reed flute. But you're smiling. Because today, you didn't just survive. You delivered. Your backside hasn't fully moulded to the Tampa bench before you're being handed a cup of hot matata coca. It's not luxury, just a wooden bowl full of steeped leaves. But right now it might as well be gold and honey. You sip carefully, the bitterness cutting through the fuzz in your brain. The warmth travels down your throat, easing something primal, like your soul just got a massage. Outside, the sun pulses like a hammer. The Tampu's thatch roof groans in the heat, and the stone walls radiate warmth like an old oven. It's a modest shelter, but in the world of Chasqui it's practically a spa. You stretch your legs, which twitch involuntarily as if they haven't accepted the run is over. Your sandals, worn smooth, sit beside you like retired warriors. Bits of gravel and grass cling to your ankles, and there's a new blister blooming on your heel that looks like it's planning a rebellion. But you're still breathing. You're still whole. That counts. The girl from outside reappears with a small bowl of moat, boiled maize kernels, fluffy and bland and glorious. You eat greedily. Not fast, but with the concentration of someone who knows this might be your only real food until tomorrow. Or the next day. She doesn't say much, just offers a knowing smile. Chasqui don't need to talk. Everyone already knows what you've just been through. Your fingers brush the spare quipu cords hanging on the Tampu's back wall. These aren't messages, they're training tools. Colourful, intricate, knotted in impossible ways. You recognise the patterns. Crop yields, census data, tribute deliveries. Some scholars today still argue how detailed these cords could get. Were they only for accounting? Or could they store poetry? Or even dirty jokes? You'd bet on the jokes. Those knots look suspiciously cheeky. A fellow Chasqui once claimed he saw a quipu that detailed the emperor's dreams. Probably nonsense. Or maybe not. The Inca bureaucracy was dense enough to track your grandmother's sneeze habits. If it meant improved corn distribution, you glance at the path again. The other runner has long vanished into the heat haze, carrying the thread you started weaving this morning. The imperial relay continues even when you're too tired to lift a finger. Your moment of rest is brief. A tap on your shoulder breaks the spell. "You're up," says a voice like gravel soaked in salt water. It's the Tampu manager, a man whose eyebrows have seen too much. He hands you a fresh quipu cord, tied tight with a knot you don't recognise. You don't ask questions. That's not your job. Your job is to move. You swallow the last of your moat, wipe your hands on your tunic and slip the new message into your sash. Your muscles groan in protest, but you rise anyway. Because this is the rhythm of your life. Run, deliver, rest, run again. Like breath, like heartbeat. Your new destination lies east. You don't ask how far. You never ask. That way lies despair. As you step outside, your eyes squint against the glare. The Tampu shrinks behind you as you descend into the dry valley below. The vegetation shifts. Tall grasses, scattered cacti, dust spiralling like spirits around your feet. You begin to sweat again within minutes. The heat is punishing here. A slow roast under the Andean sun. Your tunic darkens with salt. Each footfall kicks up fine powder, and soon your legs look dipped in cinnamon. Somewhere, a llama bleats. There's a trail marker carved into a boulder. You brush away the dust and see the worn glyph of Inti, the sun god, etched in spirals. It's a good sign, or a warning, hard to say with gods. Up ahead, a shadow passes over you. A condor, its wings casting a brief eclipse. It circles once, then glides away, silent and impossibly graceful. You've heard stories that condors follow messengers, waiting for the weak ones to fall. You try not to take it personally. The road curves along the ridge, and suddenly you're staring out at a landscape that looks torn from another world. Giant terraces cascade down the mountains like steps built for giants. Fields of quinoa shimmer in the wind. Stone walls rise in clean ancient angles, and somewhere down there, people are working, farming, weaving, living. You're just passing through. Your sandals slap the ground rhythmically, the sound almost meditative. You reach into your pouch, pull a tiny piece of dried llama jerky, and chew. It's like eating a leather belt. But again, fuel is fuel. Just then a figure appears ahead. Another chasqui, this one moving uphill toward you. His gait is slow, uneven. As he approaches, you recognize the limp. Old injury. Probably from a landslide or an unfriendly snake. You exchange nods. No words. Just the unspoken bond of people who carry empires on foot. Then, without ceremony, you pass each other and keep going. It's a strange kind of solitude, surrounded by mountains, stalked by gods, and yet always part of something massive. You're alone, but never forgotten. A breeze picks up, cooling your sweat-slick skin. It smells faintly of eucalyptus and roasted corn. Somewhere in the hills, someone's cooking lunch. But not for you. Your pace picks up again. Your heart settles into its relentless beat. The road stretches ahead. Still climbing, always climbing. And you? You keep running. The slope steepens cruelly, like the mountain just remembered it hadn't punished you enough yet. The path coils upward into folds of stone and loose shale, and each step now feels like it costs a little more of your soul. Your legs, treacherous beasts that they are, begin to shake. You ignore them. Pain is part of the rhythm. This is the Qhapaq, the royal road. It's not just a path, it's the backbone of an empire. Over 25,000 miles of stone-threaded trails, from the ocean to the Amazon to the snowy tips of the Andes. A marvel of engineering, and a personal vendetta against your knees. Built by hand, one rock at a time, the road is smoother in some places, carved into bedrock, while in others it's stitched together with cobbles and brute hope. It winds across gorges, snakes up cliffs, cuts through jungle. No terrain was off limits. It united the Inca Empire, sure, but it also regularly broke the humans who travelled it. You adjust your gait as the incline increases. Small steps now. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. You whisper this rhythm like a prayer, or a plea. Your breath fogs slightly as you reach higher altitudes again, even though the sun blazes bright above. The mountain is confused about what season it's in, and so are your sweat glands. Hot in the sun, cold in the shade, and nowhere comfortable. Historians still argue how the Incas managed to build and maintain a road system of this scale, without the wheel or draft animals like oxen. Llamas helped, sure, but they're finicky high-altitude drama queens who spit when displeased. And they don't do male runs. You slip once, just enough for your sandal to skid across loose gravel. Your heart lurches, arms flail, and for one horrifying second you imagine your body cartwheeling down the slope like an unfortunate squash. But your balance holds, barely. You mutter a rude word under your breath and keep going. You pass a checker, a suspension bridge spanning a narrow ravine, this one intact and blessedly not swaying. The ropes creak as you cross, each footstep a gamble, the kind you don't dwell on. You cross without looking down, always without looking down. On the far side you pause just long enough to breathe. The trail here is carved into the mountain, following a dizzying contour that no sane cartographer would ever suggest. You run along a ledge barely wide enough for your hips, sheer rock to one side, oblivion on the other. Your brain politely begins shutting down your fear response. Survival through denial. You pass stone markers, half-buried waypoints from runners who came before you, small piles of rocks, carvings worn smooth by sun and wind, places where offerings were left and sometimes bones. Yes, bones. A reminder that not every chasqui makes it home. They say some tambo stations keep shrines to fallen runners, little bundles of cloth, a bit of sandal leather. Some say you can still hear whispers on the wind where those runners fell. Or maybe that's just your imagination running on low oxygen and high anxiety. Your mind starts to drift a little now, normal at this stage. Endurance running does strange things. You begin reciting multiplication tables under your breath, then a list of tambo locations, then every curse word you know in Quechua, Aymara, and that weird dialect the northern runners use that sounds like everyone's choking on chili peppers. You laugh to yourself, a little deliriously. The road levels for a moment and your eyes scan the horizon. Far off in the haze you can see a ridge topped with stone walls, your next goal. But to get there, the road dips again into a narrow pass the locals call the Throat. Wind whistles through it like a flute. Some say spirits live there. You say you don't care, but you walk faster. Your fingers graze the quipu at your side. You haven't even looked at the knots. It's not your place. Your message could be anything: a warning, a tax update, a tribute notice, or instructions for grain storage. Once, a fellow Chasquis bragged that he carried a quipu that ordered a governor's execution. You didn't ask how that ended. You'd like to sleep again someday. A fringe fact. In some rare cases, Chasquis were allowed to speak their message aloud instead of relying solely on the quipu, usually for things too urgent or too dangerous to risk getting knotted incorrectly. You've never been trusted with one of those. Not yet. The pass tightens, you pull your tunic tighter. It's suddenly cold again, wind slicing through like obsidian. You pass a spot where a traveller once tried to build a shrine, a rough stone circle, abandoned halfway through. It's not the shrine that chills you, it's the jagged claw marks in the stone beside it. You're not alone out here, never are. Pumas hunt along this route, so do bandits, though far fewer now. The Emperor's punishments are famously creative. One rumoured method involves a cliff, a basket, and a suspiciously long fall. You make a mental note to never get on the Emperor's bad side. Then you remember that the Sapa Inca is considered a direct descendant of the sun, and probably doesn't know your name anyway. Still, best behaviour. Another hour passes, time blurs. The trail becomes a concept more than a reality. Just dust, wind, and repetition. And then, miracle of miracles, you see it. Another tampu. Perched on a cliff's lip like a stubborn bird, smoke curling up from its roof. You don't cheer, you don't smile. You just run faster. Because every tampu means survival, and every step is a whispered pact between you and this road that never ends. You don't walk into the tampu. You stumble in like someone who's just completed a marathon and was rewarded with a rock to the kneecaps. Your legs finally start negotiating for a strike. Your lungs do their best imitation of a panicked bellows, and your brain, bless it, politely requests a nap. But the tampu keeper's already reaching for a water skin and a chunk of roasted maize, and you manage a nod of thanks before collapsing onto a mat of woven reed. It's scratchy, lumpy, and smells faintly of yak butter, but it might be the most glorious thing you've ever sat on. Then, without much fanfare, the aches arrive. Your calves seize up like overwound rope. Your back twinges in that one weird place near your spine that always acts up. And your shoulders feel like someone used them to grind maize. You look down at your sandals, those brave, battered strips of rawhide, and realise you've worn a hole clean through the left one. Still, no time for pity. The keeper drops the news you feared. Another runner hasn't shown. That means you must continue, without rest, without backup, and without arguing. You sigh, then curse into your corn. This next stretch, straight into the cloud line. You've heard about this segment. Everyone has. Nicknamed the Stairs to Inti's Elbow, it's a zigzagging nightmare of steep, slick stone steps carved directly into the cliff face, ascending into the mist. Historians still argue whether it was designed that way for speed, religious alignment, or simply to weed out the faint of heart. You down your water, stretch your calves with the enthusiasm of someone preparing for minor war, and slap the dust from your tunic. The tampu keeper hands you a coca bundle and a grim look. You nod. This isn't a favour. This is your duty. As you step back out, the world looks different. Cloud veils have begun to spill over the peaks like foam, swallowing colour, muting sound. Even the birds have stopped gossiping. You start the ascent. The air changes here. Thinner, drier, colder. Your breath forms visible ghosts with every exhale. Every time your foot lands, you feel it. Less gravity, more suspicion. The earth doesn't want you here. The stairs are endless. Not in a poetic, time is a flat circle way. Literally endless. You climb for what feels like hours. The mess coils tighter. Your hair clings damp to your forehead. Your nose is starting to bleed from the pressure. Welcome to altitude sickness. Hope you enjoyed your one snack. There's no railing. Just slick rock beneath you and a drop so deep the fog can't even be bothered to reach the bottom. You press your body close to the wall and continue. Hands brushing lichen-covered surfaces, feet testing every stone. One slip, and you're the newest offering to Pachamama, the Earth Mother. You mutter prayers between gasps. One to Ilapa, the storm god, one to the ancestors, and one to your mother, because frankly she was right about you not having enough sense to be a potter instead. There's a sound above, a sudden thump, a sharp scrape. You freeze. A small stone bounces down from above, then another. You press yourself flat against the cliff, heartbeat trying to escape through your ears. Is it a landslide? An animal? A fellow chasqui losing their pack? The mist parts just enough for you to spot a vizcacha, a furry rodent with a smug face perched on a rock. It blinks at you slowly and flicks its tail. You almost throw a shoe at it. But then remember you only have two, and they're both dying as it is. Eventually the stairs flatten into a narrow shelf of earth. You crawl forward, grateful for something vaguely horizontal. Up here, everything's silent. Even your thoughts seem quieter, as if they know not to disturb the sky spirits. Then, just as your vision begins to swim and you wonder whether you're hallucinating, you see it. A small stone apachita, a cairn built by countless runners and travellers before you. You limp toward it, dig into your pouch and place your offering. A dull copper bead from your wrist string, small but sincere. The air feels slightly warmer now, or maybe that's your brain misfiring from lack of oxygen. You chew another wad of coca and push on. The trail winds along a knife-edge ridge now with clouds churning on both sides. Every gust of wind threatens to yeet you into the abyss. You lean forward, body low, arms out for balance. And then, suddenly, a view. Just for a moment, the clouds peel back and you see everything. The valleys below, green and gold and impossibly far away. Villages dotting terraced hillsides like clay freckles. A river carving its path like a silver snake. You stand still, soaking it in. This is what you run for. Not just orders and empires and breathless urgency, but this, the impossible beauty at the edge of the world. Then the wind howls again, and the fog slams shut, as if the mountain regrets showing you its heart. You blink, adjust your pack, and start running again. Because you don't have time for poetry. You have a message to deliver. The wind doesn't stop. It never really stops up here. It pushes, pulls, whistles, and moans like the mountain is trying to speak, but only in half-forgotten ghost languages. You don't answer. You just run. Or try to. Because now the road decides it's done being reasonable. You're entering what Chasquis call the Screaming Land. It's not an official name, obviously, but ask any runner what part of the trail haunted their dreams, and they'll point to this stretch, the savage strip where ecosystems collide like angry gods. In just a few miles, you'll drop from frostbitten cloud peaks into baking desert, then climb again into windblown rock plains where even the moss looks judgmental. You descend fast at first, gravity yanking you downhill whether you're ready or not. Your knees ache with every thud. Your teeth rattle. Your sandals scrape stone after stone until your toes start composing a letter of resignation. The scenery shifts as you lose elevation. Snow melts into mossy slope. Moss gives way to shrubs. Then, suddenly, dust. Not the gentle cinematic kind that drifts through light like in those National Geographic specials. No, this is biting. Fine, nose-clogging powder that gets in your eyes, your lungs, your soul. You pull a cloth over your mouth and keep moving. The temperature spikes. You go from shivering to sweating in under 15 minutes. Your wool tunic now feels like a wet blanket in a sauna. The sun overhead has mutated into a cruel overseer, baking the rock under your feet and bouncing heat straight up your legs. You pause briefly under the shade of a scraggly quenua tree, just long enough to peel a pebble from your sandal. You try not to look at your feet. They're beyond help now, just blisters and stubbornness in sock form. You chew another clump of coca leaves, now dry and tasting like you're licking an old coin. Still, you need the boost. The next leg of the journey is the worst one yet. The Canyon of Three Mouths. The name's not poetic. There are literally 3 narrow canyons converging into one winding gorge, each with its own personality, none of them friendly. One is lined with thorn bushes that claw at your legs. The second echoes so eerily it distorts sound, making it impossible to tell if someone, or something, is following you. And the third? That's the one with the wasps. You pick the echoing canyon, better ghosts than wasps, you figure. The path narrows, hemmed in by towering walls of ancient red stone. Your footsteps echo strangely, like you're being followed by someone with a limp. You don't turn around. You never do. Everyone knows that the road plays tricks. A side note, some fringe oral accounts claim this part of the Qhapaq is cursed, built atop pre-Inca ceremonial burial paths. Supposedly, the spirits here never accepted the Empire's rule. You've never seen a ghost. But you've definitely felt watched. You hum softly to fill the air, a song your grandmother used to sing while combing your hair, a lullaby about llamas and moonlight. It helps. The canyon eventually spits you out into what feels like another planet, a flat, sun-beaten plain of cracked salt and scattered stone. You shield your eyes and scan the horizon. There, far ahead, a tampu, or maybe a mirage. You press on, step after step, your mind loosening like a frayed rope. You count things. Clouds, cactus spines, your own teeth. You try to remember the last time you felt clean, or safe, or young. Then the plane shifts again. Heat ripples the ground. The light grows sharp, angled. You've crossed into the desert zone, and it's not here to make friends. Everything here is out to get you. The air, which shreds your throat with each inhale. The ground, which reflects the sun so violently your eyeballs feel roasted. And the wind, which now picks up again, pelting your skin with tiny grains of sand like nature's own exfoliation gone rogue. There are no trees, no shade, no sounds but your own laboured breath. You keep going. You dream about water, not the trickling stream kind. No. You dream about big city baths, about pools in jungle estates where nobles float in perfumed oils and sip fermented corn beer out of golden cups. Places you'll never see. Places that exist only for people who receive messages, not run them. Your stomach grumbles. You reach into your pouch and pull out something dry and misshapen. Is it jerky? Or lint? You chew it anyway. The horizon doesn't get closer. It never does in the desert. But slowly, imperceptibly, the tampu appears less like a fantasy and more like a destination. And then, crack. You stop. Tilt your head. Listen. It's not thunder. It's under your foot. You glance down. Ants. Not the tiny friendly kind. These are army ants, relentless, coordinated, and currently crawling up your sandal. You yelp, leap back, and frantically slap at your ankles. A few bites sting like hot needles, and you hop around in a manic little dance that would be hilarious if it weren't so painful. The trail, it seems, still has a sense of humour. By the time you reach the tampu, you're limping, sunburned, half delirious, and chewing the last of your dignity. But you made it. You survived the screaming land. You hand off your message with hands that tremble, drink water like you're trying to merge with it, and collapse in the nearest patch of shade. The tampa keeper eyes you sympathetically and mutters, "The jungle's next." You moan into your sleeve. You were kind of hoping the next leg would be easier. You know, maybe a gentle trail lined with wildflowers and chirping birds. Something a little less life-threatening. But instead, as you leave the tampu behind and descend into a humid, churning green abyss, it becomes instantly clear. The jungle does not want you here. Not now, not ever. The air thickens like stew. Each inhale is a struggle, like sipping through wet cloth. Your skin, still sunburned from the desert, now becomes sticky and swollen with sweat. The wool of your tunic clings in all the wrong places, and your leggings feel like damp seaweed. If the mountains were trying to kill you with cold and cliffs, the jungle is trying to smother you to death with breathless heat and noise. Because the noise is constant, buzzing, hissing, screeching, things calling to other things that call back louder. Some sounds are birds, sure, but some, not birds, probably not even real animals, just jungle things. Still, you run. You follow a trail nearly swallowed by green. Tree roots twist across the path like lazy snakes, and actual snakes slither away as your footfalls shake the ground. Massive leaves slap your face. Every branch seems to drip something. You hope it's just dew or rain. But this is the Amazonian fringe, and nothing is ever just what it seems. And then, there it is. That sound again. A low growl. You freeze mid-stride. The air pulses around you. Somewhere close. Too close. A predator watches. maybe a jaguar, maybe worse. You crouch, still as stone. You don't breathe, you don't blink. And slowly, the growl fades. You start running again, faster, quieter. Here in the jungle, you're not the apex anything. You're meat. Camouflaged, sweaty, nervous meat carrying a quipu cord the gods themselves probably couldn't decipher. Historians still debate how often Chasqui actually had to run through jungle terrain like this, since many parts of the Inca Trail deliberately skirted the thickest forests. But they did exist. Smaller paths that reached coastal and lowland outposts, and if the Sapa Inca says send a message, then by the sun, you send it. Even if it means sprinting through a green hellscape that smells like mushrooms, death, and overripe mango. You slap a mosquito off your neck. Another one immediately takes its place. Fine, you mumble. Take the blood. It's the only thing I have left. Ahead, the trail narrows further and dips toward a sludgy creek. The bridge? Gone. In its place, a fallen tree trunk spans the water. You sigh. Of course it's a log. It's always a log. You test it with one foot, slippery, covered in moss, possibly rotting. You say a prayer to Viracocha, the creator god, and start across. Arms out, knees bent. Every step is a gamble. The water below is full of things that should not have teeth but definitely do. You don't look down. Halfway across, something slithers over your foot. You don't scream, but your soul briefly considers checking out. You reach the other side panting, soaked in sweat, and possibly having aged 3 years in 45 seconds. The trail continues, narrow, winding, suspiciously squishy. The canopy thickens, light filters through in scattered golden shards. And that's when the pit trap nearly gets you. One step and your foot plunges through what you thought was ground but was actually cleverly disguised leaves. You jerk back just in time, flailing onto your backside. The trap isn't deep, but it's lined with sharpened sticks. Animal hunters set it, maybe yesterday, maybe last year, but it would have ruined your whole career. And your legs. You crawl around it, muttering curses in Quechua and a little Spanish, just in case the gods are bilingual. Up ahead, a parrot screams something obscene, or at least it sounds obscene, and a monkey drops a seed pod dangerously close to your skull. You're not sure if it was accidental or a statement. The humidity hits a new record. Your fingers are wrinkled like you've been in a bath for hours. Your lips are cracked. Your pouch is empty. You're down to your final chew of coca, and whatever dignity remains. You stumble into a clearing, half expecting another tampu, but no. Just a carved stone marker, ancient and moss-covered, with the symbol of the sun god scratched deep into its surface. You kneel before it, not out of reverence, but to catch your breath without passing out. You place your palm on the symbol and whisper, "Thanks, you're still alive, barely." And then, drums. Faint, rhythmic, from far ahead. You push forward, and within minutes the jungle peels back slightly to reveal a lowland village, small and surrounded by reed fences. Children scatter when they see you, and a man steps forward holding a ceremonial staff. You present your quipu. The man doesn't touch it. He just bows and calls for someone inside the main hut. Your replacement arrives. A boy, not more than 16, lean and nervous. He ties the quipu to his sash, nods at you solemnly, and bolts back the way you came. You pray he brought better mosquito repellent. The villagers offer you food, yucca paste and a roasted fish so smoky it tastes like lightning. You eat gratefully, wiping your face with a banana leaf and resisting the urge to lie down in the hammock and fake your death. The road continues eastward. There's still another leg before the next imperial station. You glance toward the trees, the vines twist like question marks. The air buzzes louder, and you run again, because the jungle doesn't end. Not for Chasqui. The jungle tightens behind you like a closing hand. You can still hear the village drums fading into the green, but you don't turn around. Turning around is for people with the luxury of retreat. You have a message, and messages don't go backward. The terrain shifts again, because of course it does. The flat trails give way to a sloped, tangled corridor of twisted roots, slick stones, and ankle-deep mud. Every step now feels like a gamble, like the earth is deciding whether to support you or swallow you whole. You press forward anyway, because hunger is setting in, and the next tampu isn't just a relay, it's a lifeline. Your last meal wasn't exactly filling. The roasted fish and yucca paste are already distant memories, digested by effort and evaporated through your pores. Now, your stomach grumbles like it's trying to communicate with the gods directly, and your only remaining snack, chunyo. Yes, the infamous freeze-dried potato that could double as a paperweight. You pull one from your pouch. It's hard, grey, and slightly fuzzy. You sniff it. It smells like dirt and ancient regret. Still, you take a bite. Your jaw does most of the work. Your taste buds file a complaint. But your body, grateful. Chunyo may be unappetizing, but it's a survivor's food. It lasts forever, resists mold, and was once rumoured to be used as emergency sling ammo in border skirmishes. It's basically the Swiss Army knife of Inca cuisine. Historians still debate whether chunyo was the main fuel for chasqui or more of a fallback. Some accounts suggest dried meat, chasqui, was favoured by elite messengers. But either way, you know the truth. You'll eat whatever doesn't fight back. You gulp down the last chew of chunyo and chase it with a sip of river water, filtered hastily through a scrap of cloth. It tastes questionably clean. But again, hydration over hygiene. You'll risk a stomachache before risking collapse. The path begins to rise again, which is extremely unfair in your opinion. You're covered in sweat, grime, and mystery insect bites. Your thighs are trembling. And now you're climbing? Yes, because the empire was apparently built on the principle of what if everything was uphill? You clamber up a slope where the trail is partially eroded. One wrong step and you'll tumble into a ravine so lush and overgrown it might qualify as a whole separate ecosystem. You consider yelling, "I deliver important government correspondence," just in case the trees care. You reach a plateau and pause to breathe. Your heart pounds like a festival drum. Your arms hang limp. Your shoulders are sunburned and chafed, a rare achievement. And then, just to spice things up, the jungle throws in a thunderstorm. It begins with a single fat drop. Cold, sharp, smack between the eyes. Then another, then a dozen. And suddenly the sky cracks open and dumps a bucket of ice water on your head. You don't scream, you just groan, because there is no shelter, no rocks, no caves, no friendly villagers with warm soup and dry socks. Just you, the trail, and a rapidly growing river pouring down from the hills like a liquid avalanche. Your wool tunic becomes a soggy sponge, your sandals squish with every step. And the trail? It's mud now, slick, gloopy, and eager to suck your feet in and keep them forever. You slide, you skid, you very nearly lose your quipu pouch to a sneaky root. But still, you run. Rain pours down your face, into your eyes, your mouth. You're soaked to your bones. But the coca leaves are still tucked under your tongue, and that stubborn little beat inside your chest says go. Because if you don't, the empire stops. That's the terrifying math of it. The crops don't get counted, the generals don't get orders, the festivals don't happen. Without you, the whole machine starts to rust. Eventually the rain slows, the thunder grumbles into silence. The trees begin to drip like leaky roofs. Everything smells like leaf mould and frog breath. And in this sudden quiet, something moves ahead. A shape. Low to the ground, four-legged, stocky, you freeze, tap here, you sigh in relief. It's not dangerous, just startled. You both lock eyes for a moment, sharing a moment of mutual, "What are you doing out here?" confusion. Then it lumbers off into the bush with all the grace of a muddy sofa. You keep moving, your sandals are soaked. Your feet squish in time with your heartbeat. Then a sound. Distant, but clear. Hollow, rhythmic. A patutu. Another runner's trumpet shell. A signal. That means a tampu is near. You break into a run that's more ambition than speed. The path widens, the foliage thins, and there it is. A stone outpost nestled beneath a pair of banyan trees, smoke rising from a fire pit. The faint smell of burning maize wafting through the air like hope itself. You stagger inside, dripping and mud-streaked, and collapse onto a stone bench. The tampa keeper doesn't blink. She just hands you a fresh cloth, a dry wrap for your feet, and a bowl of warm broth made from something that smells suspiciously like boiled cactus. You don't care. You drink. She nods at your pouch. New message. You groan, nod, and slide the quipu across the table. She doesn't open it. She just gestures to the back. Sleep. You've got another climb in the morning. Of course you do. You wake up before sunrise, not because you're well rested. Far from it. Your entire body feels like it spent the night in a wrestling match with a boulder. But the Patutu has already blown from the nearby ridge, and the Tampu keeper is banging around with a bowl of hot chicha, which smells slightly fermented and wildly questionable. You sit up, joints creaking like poorly maintained hinges, and gulp the drink. It's sour, it's weirdly fizzy, and it works. 10 minutes later, you're lacing your sandals, tying your sash, and mentally preparing for the next gauntlet. This run's different. You're not just carrying a quipu, you're carrying a verbal message, a spoken report, memorized word for word from the previous runner. You repeat it silently as you stretch. Lists of supplies, dates for a sun festival, a personnel change in a coastal garrison, and oddly, a request for more coloured feathers. It's not the content that scares you, it's the pressure. Because verbal messages, you get one shot, one mistake, and the meaning could shift. One mispronounced number, and suddenly the Empire sends 80 llamas instead of 8. And no one wants that. Especially not the llamas. Historians agree, the Chasquis weren't just runners. You were also living, breathing recorders, human USB sticks with remarkable memory and an unfortunate lack of sleep. Some fringe accounts even claim you were trained in tone and delivery, so the message's emotional weight wouldn't be lost. Whether or not that's true, your job today is to get it right. You check your gear. Coca, check. Quipu, tied. Verbal message? Repeating on a loop like a stressed-out mantra. You step onto the trail and begin running. This section winds along a cliffside. Classic imperial drama. Every vista is majestic. Every misstep is fatal. The stones are slick from last night's rain, but the dawn sky is clear, pinking into soft gold at the edges. For a brief moment, the air feels fresh, even sacred. You allow yourself one deep, peaceful breath. Then a bee flies directly into your mouth. You hack and sputter, nearly tripping over a rock the size of your ego. You spit the bee out, mostly unharmed, weirdly aggressive, and keep running, dignity trailing somewhere behind you. Up ahead, the trail forks. One path is flat but longer. The other is steep, direct, and haunted by the memory of your last cramp. You choose steep. Not because you're brave, because the sun waits for no messenger. You lean into the incline, knees pumping, arms swinging. Your muscles protest, your lungs wheeze, but the message keeps looping in your head like a safety net. You pass a shrine built into the mountainside, stones stacked around a tiny golden sun disk. You slow just enough to tap it with your hand and whisper, "Still alive." The gods enjoy status updates. Then, as if summoned by that whisper, another runner appears coming toward you, a blur of speed, hair tied with a crimson cord, eyes laser-focused. She doesn't speak as she passes, just gives a curt nod and disappears into the mist. That's the thing about Chasquis. You're not teammates, you're links. Individual, relentless, and mostly anonymous. But the system works only because everyone plays their part with terrifying precision. You crest the ridge and descend into a wide valley covered in golden grass and scattered with tampus. Farms, supply stations, homes of officials. The people barely look up as you pass. They've seen runners before, always rushing, always urgent, always dust-covered and mumbling to themselves. You pass 2 herders moving a group of alpacas. One of them tries to offer you a drink, but you wave him off. You can't stop. The message is still bouncing in your brain, and you can feel its weight. Not physical, but mental, like carrying a glass of water on your head. Down the trail, a wooden bridge crosses a marshy stretch. It looks newish, which means you probably won't fall through. Hopefully. You sprint across, sandals thumping. The planks creak but hold. A few minutes later, you finally see it. A larger tampu with stone walls and a real thatch roof. This is a primary relay station, one of the big ones. Officials live here. Quipu keepers, message auditors, probably someone with the authority to roll their eyes if you stumble over a syllable. You slow your pace, steady your breath, and rehearse the message one more time in your head. Then, with one final push, you enter the courtyard. A man in an elaborate tunic meets you at the doorway. He gestures to a shaded platform. You kneel. He bows slightly. Deliver. You close your eyes, inhale once, and speak. Supplies confirmed, 300 bushels quinoa, 20 baskets coca, feather requisition from Wari, denied due to shortages. Coastal garrison officer Aya Manco reassigned, replaced by Tupu Maita. Summer sun ritual scheduled 4th moon. Request for additional thatch denied. Repairs completed. Signature, Inca Empire. Silence, Then a nod. Correct, the man says. You exhale for the first time in what feels like days. You hand over the quipu, receive a new one, and, of course, prepare to run again, because you are the Empire's memory. And there's no pause button in history. You barely have time to finish chewing a strip of roasted maize before the next quipu is tied around your waist and someone's shouting, "Go! He's already late leaving!" And just like that, you're back on the road. No glory, no applause, not even a good job. Just the sound of your own breath and the bounce of another man's message slapping softly against your hip. This is the relay dance, a ritual so precise it could have been choreographed by the gods themselves. One runner in, one runner out, always in motion. You've just caught the baton and your job is to move like you never stopped. Ahead, the landscape levels into a flat plateau, a rare mercy. No cliffs, no jungle, no clouds itching to burst overhead. Just grasslands that sway in golden waves, broken occasionally by clusters of rocks and scrubby bushes. It would be peaceful, even lovely, if your knees weren't plotting a full revolt. Your stride loosens. The rhythm returns. The sun climbs overhead, warm but not oppressive. For a few blissful miles, it's almost pleasant. You start humming. An old work song, something your uncle used to sing while weaving baskets. The beat matches your footfalls and you pretend for a moment that you're just out for a long jog on a nice day. Then your toe catches on a root and you faceplant into a bush full of burrs. You don't scream, you just lie there for a second, staring up at the sky, contemplating your life choices. Then you spit out a leaf, push yourself up, and continue running, now with prickly bits stuck in places that shall remain unnamed. Welcome to the glamorous life of an Inca postman. As you regain pace, a memory flashes. Your training days at the Chasquis school. Long lines of boys running in loops, teachers shouting drills, instructors throwing stones near your feet, not to hurt you, but to sharpen your reflexes. They taught you how to fall, how to roll, how to recover and keep going. They also taught you how to memorize messages, how to read weather patterns, how to spot signs of rebellion in a village, how to detect when a llama is about to spit, and how to boil a mouse if absolutely necessary. You'd rather not think about that last part. A few miles in, you see it. Another figure ahead. A chasqui, maybe just a few years older than you, sitting beside a marker stone, head in his hands. You slow as you approach. His ankle is wrapped in a bandage made from his own headband. Twisted it 3 bends back, he mutters before you can ask. Message? He nods, hands you a quipu and a folded strip of bark with a quick sketch on it. One of the rare written supplements meant for regional leaders who prefer diagrams to knots. Help coming? You ask. He shrugs. Tried the shell, no answer yet. You look down the trail, sigh, and take his message too. Double quipu duty, lucky you. And now the clock really ticks. You sprint. Harder now, faster. The weight of 2 cords bouncing in time with your breath. 2 sets of knots. 2 lives of information. Some scholars have debated whether Chasquis actually ran with multiple quipus at once, or if that was an emergency-only scenario. You wish they could see you now. Scholarly curiosity slamming into bruised ribs. The train dips again. An old riverbed cut deep into the land. You leap down the embankment, scramble across the rocks, and power up the far side, legs burning. Somewhere behind you, a hawk cries out. You imagine it laughing. You pass a tampu, a small one, unmanned. Just a stone shelter and a pile of dried wood. No keeper, no supplies. Just a carved plaque reading, "Only stop if you must." You don't. Further ahead, a young boy jumps out from behind a boulder, shouting, "Tupu checkpoint!" You nearly punch him out of reflex. He grins. You passed. You groan and toss him a tiny bead from your pouch. Traditional runner's gift for local kids who play act as scouts. Keeps them friendly. Keeps the road safe. Or so the theory goes. You keep running. Now the landscape changes again, subtly but surely. The wind picks up, the grass thins, the trail turns dusty, full of loose pebbles and switchbacks. This is the Midway Ridge, and it's famous for twisted ankles, broken sandals, and one chasqui who reportedly hallucinated a talking tree and spent 3 days trying to teach it the census. Whether that story's true or not, you've seen the tree. It's unsettling. You pass a group of herders moving a small llama caravan. They part quickly when they see your headband and sash. One offers you a gourd of water, which you accept with a quick nod. "Running double?" he asks. You gesture to the 2 cords. "Yikes," he mutters. "Hope the wind's with you." It isn't. You finish the water in 2 gulps, hand back the gourd and press on. The sun shifts. The sky darkens slightly. Clouds cluster in ominous groups, gossiping behind your back. You mutter threats at them in 3 dialects. Another hour passes. You crest the final ridge, lungs gasping, and see it, the next major relay station. Larger than most. Flagstones, thatched towers, even a lookout post with guards. You slow your pace, adjust your tunic, and wipe the sweat from your face. You present the quipus and bark strip to the receiving officer, who raises an eyebrow at the double load. He scans them, nods, and gestures toward a bench. "Stay," he says. "Eat. You'll need it." You sit. And for the first time today you realize you're halfway there. You barely sit for a minute before your body launches a full protest. Your calves cramp. Your feet throb like they've been individually cursed. And your stomach, finally realizing you're stationary, growls like an angry jaguar. The receiving officer notices. He tosses you a pouch of roasted corn and a strip of chasqui, dried meat as tough as sandal leather and about as flavorful. You chew like a person trying not to think too hard about texture. It's salty, fibrous, and slightly smoky. Also, heaven. You lean back against the tampu wall and shut your eyes. The stone is warm. The air smells faintly of burnt wood and something stewing over an open fire. You hear distant voices, birds, and the low hum of the wind funneling through the high pass behind you. You allow yourself a sigh. 1 full breath in, 1 out. No jaguars, no wasps, no cliff trails or soggy shoes. Just rest. But it doesn't last. A man enters the courtyard. He's tall, draped in a ceremonial cloak, and flanked by a younger boy carrying a woven bag. He's a Qhapaq, one of the official knot readers. A decoder of the Empire's data, trained for years to interpret those seemingly random threads. You sit up straighter. He holds the quipus you delivered, scans them. His fingers trace the knots with quiet precision. He nods slowly, murmurs something to the assistant, and then turns to the receiving officer. "Correct sequencing, proper delivery," he says. Then turning to you, "What do you know of the message?" You answer carefully, "Only the route, not the contents." He studies you for a second, then smiles faintly. "Good, you'll take the next." He pulls a new quipu from his bag, smaller than usual, but its knots are tight, dense, and arranged in a pattern you don't recognize. The assistant hands you a token, an obsidian bead strung on red cord. You frown. "Is this part of the message?" "No," the Qhapaq says. "It's insurance." You don't ask what kind. There are stories, quiet ones, that some quipus carry hidden meanings. Not just numbers or announcements, but orders, dangerous ones, political ones. Some messages travel between priests and generals and bypass local governors entirely. Not everything is meant to be understood by every node of the Empire. Some things are meant to be delivered unread. The bead, then, is a sign, a symbol. Something to prove you're on official business that shouldn't be questioned. You tuck it into your sash and nod. The Qhapaq watches you for a moment longer. Then he turns and disappears into the back room of the tampu. The officer approaches. "Do you want another runner?" You shake your head. "I run better alone." He claps your shoulder. "There's no station until the coast, 3 days out." You nod again, tying the new quipu to your sash. Outside, the sun is starting to dip toward late afternoon. The wind shifts, saltier now, tinged with ocean and eucalyptus. You're nearing the Empire's edge. The coast is close, but not easy. You begin the descent. The trail here is wide but deceptive. Carved into the dry slope, it winds endlessly down toward the sea. Loose stones scatter underfoot. Dust clouds follow you like ghosts. You pass terraced farms, small villages clinging to the cliffs like barnacles. Children wave. Elders nod. They recognize the headband. They know what you are. A woman hands you a bundle of herbs. "For the stomach," she says. "Coastal air plays tricks." You tuck it into your pouch, grateful. As the trail curves again, the world opens, revealing a panorama so massive it steals your breath. Below, the coastline unfurls like a roll of silver ribbon. Hills tumble into sand. The sea glints under the sun, vast and alive. Birds circle. The horizon tilts into blue haze. You don't stop to admire it. You just run faster. This stretch is different, hotter, flatter, but riddled with switchbacks that twist like a snake's spine. You reach a sandy outcropping where someone's carved a message into the rock in Quechua script. No eagle sees the whole sky. You touch the letters. A reminder, maybe. Or a warning. You press on. Your sandals dry again, begin to rub raw at the edges. You ignore it. You've run through worse. Your knees are holding, your breath steady. But your thoughts? They're uneasy. The obsidian bead bumps against your side with every step. What kind of message needs a token like that? What if it's not just supply numbers or feather requests? What if it's a verdict? You've heard of governors who retired suddenly, temples that changed hands overnight, messages that arrived with no quipu, just a whispered sentence and a nod from a soldier with a knife. You shake the thoughts loose and focus on the rhythm. One foot, then the next. Step, step, breath, repeat. The air grows cooler, the wind sharpens, you're getting close now, and then voices, not friendly ones. You duck behind a boulder, 2 men stand at the bend ahead, armed, not guards, not fellow runners. Their tunics are mismatched, their sandals too new, bandits. You curse silently, you double back, heart pounding. There's a goat trail branching off the main path, a narrow, overgrown detour leading along the cliff's edge. You take it. It's slower, rougher, but it snakes around the bandit's post and rejoins the main trail a few miles ahead. You emerge scratched, winded, but safe. You don't look back. As the sun begins to slip behind the hills, you spot your next landmark, a stone arch worn by wind and sea air, marking the final leg to the coastal tampu. You press your hand to the quipu. Whatever's in this cord, whatever weight it carries, it'll reach its destination. Because that's what chasqui do. You run, you deliver, you disappear. The sea wind hits you like a slap of mint and salt, sharp, cold, and utterly alien after days of jungle breath and mountain dust. You pause just past the stone archway, catching your breath, letting the horizon sink into your eyes. Ahead lies the coastal road, a smoother, sandier artery of the Qhapaq. It stretches in a pale ribbon along the cliffs, flanked by spindly cacti and the skeletal remains of fishing huts. The ocean churns below in constant conversation, waves slapping rocks with the authority of a very angry bureaucrat. This should feel like relief, flatter land, open air, familiar birds. But instead something shifts inside you. You're not unseen anymore. You feel eyes, not human ones, bigger. You start to run again, faster now, just in case it's not your imagination. The obsidian bead still bounces against your hip, a tiny cold reminder that this isn't a normal message. This isn't about tax grain or llama wool inventory. And the way the last Qhapaq handed it to you, with that unreadable pause, made your neck itch. The Emperor's watching. That's what they say. The Sapa Inca's reach is so long, his eyes and ears walk the roads. Every tampu, every runner, every local leader, every priest, every grain counter, they all report upward, into a pyramid of knowing. You don't speak his name out loud. He is Intip Turin, the son of the sun. He sees through shadow, he rules through silence, and you're now carrying one of his whispers. You pass a flock of seabirds wheeling overhead, their cries stabbing the wind like tiny daggers. A dead crab crunches under your foot. The road is well maintained here, swept even. That means you're close to an important station. But your gut tells you this isn't just a regular coastal stop. This is one of those places. Quiet, remote. The kind of station that has no name on the route maps but always has guards. You see it just before sunset. A tampu larger than the others, built partly into the cliff, half shadowed by stone walls and feathered banners that don't match any local province. 2 men stand at the entrance, each with obsidian-tipped spears and expressions that say, "Please try something, we're bored." You approach carefully, head bowed. One of them steps forward. "Message?" You reach for the sipu, but his hand goes not to the cord but to the bead. You untie it, hand it over. He inspects it, grunts once and nods. This way. No questions about the quipu, no inspection, no chit-chat about road conditions or monkey trouble, just silent acceptance. That's when you know this message isn't to be recorded. You're led into the tampu, down a narrow corridor that smells like salt and ink. Candles flicker along the walls. Somewhere deeper inside, water drips steadily. Soft, rhythmic, like the sound of time trying to make itself heard. Then a door opens. You're ushered into a dim chamber. At the centre sits a man. older, robed in grey, no gold, no headdress, but everything about him says authority. He's the kind of man who speaks quietly and expects the world to listen louder. He motions to you. You kneel. Deliver. You untie the quipu, place it on a stone slab before him, and step back. He doesn't touch it immediately. Instead, he gestures again. The verbal message. You blink. There wasn't one, or so you thought. But then he says, "The man who gave you this, what did he say?" You frown. "He said it was insurance." He nods, slowly. "That's all?" You hesitate, then remember. When he handed it to me, he watched me. For a moment, like he was waiting for me to speak, but I didn't. The man nods again, as if you've passed a test you didn't know you were taking. Good. He unties the quipu with practiced ease, his fingers moving like spiders over the threads. He reads for a long time. You don't move, you barely breathe. Finally, he looks up. You're dismissed. That's it. No explanation, no thank you, no token of appreciation. You stand, bow, and turn to leave. As you step back into the fading daylight, the salt air hits you again, this time warmer, more forgiving. You hear gulls again, their cries less sharp now. The guards nod you past without a word. You don't ask what the message said. You don't want to know. Because knowing things on this road, that's not always safe. You jog lightly down the trail, sandals padding against smooth stone. Below, the waves catch the last light of the day, turning gold, then crimson, then shadow. You're not done running. There's still the return leg, if there is one. Not all chasqui come back. Some are redirected, some vanish. Some are retired to mountain towns to train the next generation. And some just keep running. You pass a pile of stones beside the path and a pachita. You stop, find a small pebble in your pouch, and place it on top. Not for luck, for memory. Because the road remembers. Always. You wake the next morning in a simple reed hut by the sea, wrapped in a rough wool blanket that smells like salt and ash. You barely remember collapsing the night before. One moment you were jogging back from the cliffside tampu, brain buzzing with too many unspoken questions, and the next, darkness, ocean air, sleep. The tampu keepers didn't ask anything, just pointed you toward the sleeping hut, handed you a bowl of broth, and vanished back into the stone complex like shadows returning to their cave. You sit up now, bones popping like a chorus of snappy twigs. Outside, the sun is rising, low and orange, casting a long shimmer across the surf. Seabirds screech in the distance. Somewhere, someone is grinding corn. And inside your head, silence. Not the peaceful kind. The wary, hollow silence that follows a message you were never meant to understand. You feel lighter, sure. The quipu is gone. But that obsidian bead left a psychic bruise. You didn't carry just thread. You carried judgment. You stand, stretch, wash your face in a clay bowl, and relace your sandals now patched crudely with fibre cord. One has barely any soul left. It doesn't matter. You're not done running. You've been reassigned. A note was left for you overnight, scratched into a bark strip sealed with a red cord. It reads, "Proceed inland, next route urgent, no rest." Of course not. You shoulder your gear, accept a handful of parched maize from a kitchen boy, and head back to the trail, this time away from the sea, back into the bones of the land. As you ascend, the salty air fades, replaced by the dry whisper of coastal scrub. Thorny bushes scrape your arms, lizards scurry underfoot. The path winds upward along pale cliffs, and for a long while you see no one. Just sky, wind, and the road. Hours pass. The next tampu is perched halfway up a ridge. When you reach it, a young woman is waiting with a fresh message. A new quipu, this one coloured unusually, with multiple cords braided together at the base. You blink. Braided cords mean one thing, multi-point message. This isn't just going to a single person, it's headed to 3 separate officials, each meant to read part of the knots, which means 3 routes, and guess who's been assigned the first? You sigh, tie it to your sash and begin again. This new stretch of the Qhapaq takes you through a dusty river valley, cut deep into the earth like a scar. The air here is dry, sharp, and filled with floating grit that scratches your throat every time you breathe. Your mouth tastes like chalk. And still, you run. Your feet crunch over gravel. You leap over a trickling stream. You pass a stone slab carved with a condor's wing, a territorial marker indicating you've entered a governor's region. You pause only long enough to mutter the official runner's oath, "I bear no burden but that which the sun commands." Then forward again. The first stop is a village built into a bend of the valley wall. Houses of mud brick and thatch. Children play with reed toys. An old man waves. A woman calls out something about dried figs. You smile and nod, but don't stop. The local overseer meets you at the plaza. He's tall, bald, and holding a gourd. You kneel, hand over the first strand of the braided quipu, bright red with gold knots. He doesn't speak, just unrolls it, studies it, then nods. You don't wait. You're already tying your sandals tighter and heading to the next trail. Second leg, up the switchbacks. The incline here is brutal, sharp turns. Loose footing. You pass terraces that grow cassava and maize, their walls like ancient stony ribs. At one point, you stop to tighten your sash, and a small snake slithers past your foot. You whisper, "Not today, friend," and keep moving. There's no tampu at this midpoint, just a guard post. You hand the second strand, green with blue accents, to a tired-looking man who's missing 2 fingers. He grunts, ties it to his belt, and limps away. You're already gone. The third leg takes you east toward the forest fringe. Again, not full jungle this time, but edge territory. Tall trees, high humidity, and a whole army of insects that treat chasqui like Buffy samples. You slap your arm, again and again. A wild dog barks in the distance. You run faster. The third recipient is a woman, an official dressed in patterned robes waiting under a palm awning near a village ceremonial field. You present the final cord, yellow and brown, and she raises her eyebrows. "Braided," she says. You nod. She reads it carefully, then snaps her fingers. 2 messengers appear from behind a hut, ready to carry replies. You bow, turn, and begin to jog away. She calls after you. "You're the one who brought the obsidian bead, yes?" You stop. Turn. "Yes." She tilts her head. Still breathing. That's a good sign. You offer a weak smile. "Don't worry," she adds. "The Empire has sharp teeth, but it rarely bites its own runners." Rarely. Not never. You run again, heart unsettled. Because here's the thing about this job. You don't know what you're carrying. Not really. It could be a tribute list, a royal birth announcement, a call for soldiers, or it could be the words that end someone's life. And sometimes it's both. The road grows quiet again, but not in a peaceful way. It's a kind of silence that feels too complete, like something is missing. Birds, gone. Wind, still. Even your own footsteps seem to muffle themselves out of respect, or maybe fear, because you've entered forbidden ground. Not officially forbidden. There's no sign, no red line on the map, but every chasqui knows this part of the trail. The Veiled Pass. It's a low corridor between ridges, tucked in the crook of 2 valleys, rarely visited unless the message is urgent. The tampas on either end are sparsely staffed, and you've heard rumours about what runs between them. Not jaguars, not rebels, ghosts, or something like them. The locals whisper that this pass lies on top of an ancient burial zone, pre-Inca, long forgotten. When the Sapper Inca expanded the road through here, the builders reported strange accidents, shadows that moved against the wind, stones that bled, runners that arrived mute. Historians debate whether these tales were born from altitude-induced hallucinations, trauma, or just the standard Incan flair for storytelling. But among chasqui, the consensus is simpler. You don't stop in the Veiled Pass. You don't look into the fog that always lingers, even on clear days, and you definitely don't speak. So now, as you push forward into that stillness, you instinctively slow your breathing. Your heartbeat seems louder than your footfalls. Mist coils low over the ground, curling around your ankles like cats deciding whether to trip you. You clutch your current quipu tighter. It's not an imperial one. This is a community transfer, a regional order between 2 townships, something about irrigation disputes and land rotation cycles. Nothing dangerous, supposedly. But still, you can't shake the weight of something unseen watching from the tree line. At one point, a branch cracks. You freeze. Scan the trees. Nothing moves. You keep running. Your sandals kick up pebbles. Your ears strain for sound. Your eyes flick to every ridge and shadow. And in the centre of your chest, a strange cold settles, like someone poured river water into your lungs, And then, ahead, a stone circle. Not a tampu, not a shrine, a mummy station. You've only seen 2 in your life. These are places where runners, on rare ceremonial routes, carry not just messages but ancestors. Wrapped in fine textiles, carried on litters or slung over shoulders, these mummies represent lineage, memory and spiritual diplomacy. They don't talk. But their presence speaks volumes. No one is here now. Just the empty circle, the ash of old fires, and a bundle of withered coca leaves left as an offering. You drop a pinch of your own and bow slightly as you pass. You don't have to believe in ghosts to respect them. Not here. The trail begins to climb, finally lifting you out of the low fog. The air lightens. Birds return, cautious at first. A butterfly dances past your ear. You exhale, but the pressure hasn't lifted. Not really, because up ahead storm clouds are gathering. Thick, grey, impossibly fast. And there's no shelter. The next tampu? Still 4 hours away. You do the math. You could try to outrun it, but storms in the highlands don't work on logic. They don't move, they arrive. As you pick up your pace, the first drop hits. Fat, cold, loud. Then another, and then. The sky opens. The rain isn't gentle. It's a full assault. Sheets of water hammer your head and shoulders, soak through your wool tunic in seconds, fill your ears and sting your eyes. The trail turns into a slippery ribbon of mud and panic. You slip once, catch yourself with a hand, and now you're bleeding. A scrape on your palm, not deep, but messy. You rip a strip of cloth from your sash and wrap it tightly. You keep running, because there's lightning now, and thunder that rolls like distant drums. And here's the rule of being a chasqui. No weather excuses. Not even this. The Empire doesn't reschedule because your sandals are floating away. The Emperor doesn't wait for clearer skies. You run. Your quipu grows heavy with water, the cords dragging against your leg. You cradle it now, protectively like a child. This message may be humble, but it's still sacred. Each step is a question. Will the ground hold? Will the wind ease? Will your lungs give out before your legs? But you keep going. And then, like a miracle, the clouds break. The sun punches through, fierce and golden. The rain tapers. Steam rises from the road like ghosts fleeing the ground. Your tunic clings to your frame. You look like a drowned guinea pig, but you're alive. You reach a ridge, and there, finally, is the next tampu. A low, welcoming hut with a fire burning just outside. 2 chasqui wave from the doorway, their eyes wide when they see the mud-slick, dripping creature you've become. You hand off your quipu wordlessly and collapse under the awning. One of them hands you a bowl of warm chupe, thick soup with potatoes and herbs. You sip it slowly, the heat working its way through your frozen insides. The younger runner says that rain wasn't normal. You don't respond. Just nod, because the message got through, and that's all that matters. Your hands are still trembling from the storm as you sit by the fire, a wet lump of chasqui wrapped in half a poncho and the lingering scent of wet wool. The soup is long gone, but the heat from the coals seeps into your bones like a quiet promise. You didn't die. Not this time. The other runners trade gossip in low tones. One tells a story about a jaguar that stalked him for 3 miles and then just vanished. Another swears he once delivered a quipu that was still warm, meant for a priest who died the same hour it arrived. But the mood shifts when someone mutters, "Ever heard of a chasqui who didn't deliver?" The fire cracks. Everyone goes quiet. You have. Not just one. There are tales, whispers, warnings. Some runners don't make it to the next station. Accidents, animal attacks, disappearances. But sometimes, it's not nature, it's punishment. You don't ask for details. No one ever wants to give them. But the stories always start the same. A runner who made the wrong decision, took a shortcut, changed a message, or worse, opened one. And the endings? Let's just say they usually involve cliffs. The Inca Empire doesn't joke about its communication system. The Qhapaq isn't just a road, it's the lifeblood of the state. And the runners? You're not above scrutiny. There are inspectors, secret watchers, men who travel disguised as herders or weavers watching the road, testing runners, leaving traps. Historians still argue whether these agents were centralized or regionally appointed, but Chasquis know better. They're everywhere. A guy once told you about a runner who stopped to flirt with a girl in a village, delayed his relay by 30 minutes. A week later, he was reassigned to latrine duty in the Amazon. Forever. Another tale. A Chasquis caught smuggling a message from a provincial leader trying to hide tribute taxes. He didn't live to tell his side. The stone post where they hung his sandals still stands, cracked and overgrown. And the worst offence? Opening a quipu. The cords aren't locked, of course. They can be read, if you're trained. But that's not the point. Touching the knots, trying to decode a message, even out of curiosity. Treason. You don't need to read the knots to know how dangerous they are. One twist, one extra knot, one misaligned colour pattern, and an order changes. An army moves too soon. A marriage alliance collapses. A field goes unplanted. The Empire is precise. That's why runners carry the burden, but never the meaning. You think about the messages you've delivered. Some felt heavy, some rushed, some silent. You remember the bead, the braided cord, the tampu with no records. You don't want to understand them, because if you knew, you might hesitate. And Chasquis don't hesitate. The fire burns lower. A runner beside you snores, sprawled like a broken reed mat. You should sleep too, but your mind won't stop running. Because there's another layer to this road. The rules. And when you break them, there's no trial, no courtroom, no appeal. You either keep running, or you vanish. Some say there's a place, a tampa no one talks about, buried deep in the Andes, a stone structure with no windows and no trail markers. The runners sent there don't return, not because they're dead, no one's sure about that, because they're forgotten, erased from the Quipu records. No family mentions them, no tambo keeps their name. Their sandals are left at the door, and then nothing. You shiver and wrap your arms around your knees, not from cold, but from knowing how thin the line really is. You've never broken a rule, not officially, but you've wondered. And sometimes, wandering is the first step down the wrong trail. A rooster crows somewhere in the dark. You blink. How long were you staring at the fire? Dawn creeps over the hills, pale and grey. The world smells like ash and wet stone. Another runner stretches beside you. Another cracks his back and ties his headband. And you get up. Shake the soot from your tunic. Tie your sash tighter, because the road doesn't ask if you're ready. It just keeps going. And today, your next message waits at the cliff village known only as 3 Teeth. You've never run there before, but you've heard the path is narrow, and the walls watch you. The road to 3 Teeth earns its name quickly. Not for the village, which is barely more than a scattering of huts wedged into a cliff like someone dropped a handful of thatch into a crack in the world. No, it's the mountains above it. 3 jagged limestone spires jutting skyward, crooked and sharp like molars in the mouth of an angry god. And to get there, you must run along their jawline. You begin early, no escort, no relay partner, just a fresh quipu knotted tightly with thin cords and a note carved into bark. Deliver by sundown, no exceptions. You don't ask why. You don't ask what it says. You already suspect it's a regional alert. There was talk of a crop failure, or maybe something worse, a military recall. Either way, your job's the same. Run. The path is narrow. So narrow in places that your shoulder brushes cliff on one side and open sky yawns on the other. The drop, lethal. No trees, no railings, no margin for error. Wind screams up from below, tugging at your tunic, whispering threats in your ears. You chew coca, not because you're tired yet, but because you're afraid. And this is fear you respect. Because this part of the road was built during the earliest days of the Empire before engineers refined the stonework. The path curves unpredictably. Slabs are missing. Bridges, if you can call them that, are just logs lashed with rope. You take a deep breath and start across the first one. Your sandals grip the wood. Your knees wobble. You don't look down. Instead, you count your steps. 1, 2, 3. Don't think about the wind. 4, 5, 6. Don't think about the river below that's waiting to baptize you in broken bones. 7. You're across. You allow yourself one shaky exhale, then back to the rhythm. The higher you climb, the stranger the air feels. The clouds brush the trail now. Your skin is slick with sweat even though it's cold. Your ears pop. You taste metal at the back of your throat. And the silence. Not normal, not peaceful, expectant. You begin to wonder if the rumours were true, about how the village of 3 Teeth was once a rebel holdout, before they were brought into the fold. before the Empire marched soldiers up this very trail and made a lesson out of them. They say the village elders still whisper in code, that they only speak directly to messengers with authority. You were given no badge, just the quipu, and yet here you are. By midday your legs burn, your water pouch is nearly empty. The sun barely touches this route, it's too deep in the folds of the rock. The light is filtered, bluish, everything looks like it's underwater. Finally you see them, the teeth. 3 jagged spires piercing the sky like broken arrows, ringed with wisps of mist. Below them, the village, perched on a ledge, huts dug partly into the mountain wall, smoke curling up like uncertain prayers. You push yourself harder, a final climb. The steps are carved directly into stone, steep and uneven. You use your hands, you curse, and then you arrive. A group waits for you near the largest hut. 3 elders, 2 armed guards, and a girl no older than 12 holding a clay bowl. No one speaks. You kneel, present the quipu. Hold it out with both hands, eyes down. The eldest man steps forward. He doesn't take it. He just looks at you. "What's your name?" he asks. You blink. Chasquis don't usually give names. But here, something tells you not to lie. You give it. He nods slowly. "Who gave you this message?" You name the last Tampu chief. He makes a sound, approval, recognition. Then he takes the quipu and hands it to the girl. She runs. The other 2 elders watch you. One speaks. "Do you understand what you carried?" "No," you answer. "Good," she says. They turn away, and just like that, it's over. You sit on a flat stone. Someone brings you dried mango and fish. It's the best thing you've tasted in a month. You stare out at the valley below, clouds moving like slow beasts across the trees. There's no Tampu here, no official road marker, just a whisper network, a place on the map that technically doesn't exist. And yet, here you are. You won't stay long. No runner does. But before you leave, the girl returns. She presses something into your palm, a carved tooth made of bone. You look up. She doesn't explain. She doesn't need to. Some places on the road aren't about messages. They're about remembering. You tuck the tooth into your pouch and begin the descent. Your next route waits near the jungle rim, and you're already late. The trail from 3 Teeth unwinds behind you like a whisper you're not supposed to hear. Each step away feels like closing a door that was never opened to begin with. The bone tooth stays tucked deep in your pouch, next to your coca, your thread bundle, and your last scrap of dry maize. You don't look at it. You don't touch it again. Not yet. Because you're already descending into a different world, the jungle's edge, again. But this time, you enter from the high ridge, where the air's heavy with the scent of rain and overripe fruit, and the trees have that look like they're waiting to take something back. This route was barely marked at the last Tampu. It's used less now, maybe once every few weeks, maybe less. The trail isn't forgotten, but it is forgiving nothing. It starts with a slope, not a gentle incline, a controlled fall down gravel and tree route, winding through a tunnel of vine-choked branches that slap your face if you dare slow down. You try to keep pace, but the footing shifts constantly. Loam, wet stone, mud, sudden roots that reach up like hands. And then the heat returns. Not the dry scorch of the desert. This is wet heat, the kind that presses against your ribs and crawls behind your ears. Your tunic is soaked before you finish the first mile. You stop even trying to dry your hands. Your sandals squelch. The quipu at your waist feels heavier than usual. This message, it's local, not imperial, sent from a highland administrator to a lowland spiritual council. The cord colours, grey and green, suggest agricultural planning, maybe ceremonial calendar shifts. Nothing sharp, nothing political. That's the kind of message that should feel light. But it doesn't. Something in your bones buzzes. You pass the first marker after 2 hours, a split in the trail marked by a pile of stones and feathers. Not cloth, feathers, yellow, red, black. Arranged carefully, deliberately. Not for direction, you think, but for warning. You take the left path, the safe one, supposedly. It gets darker. The trees knit together above you. The canopy swallows the sun. Everything becomes green and wet and humming. The insects are relentless, not biting, just watching. Their wings flicker around your ears like secrets you don't want to hear. Then, a movement. A figure on the path. You freeze mid-stride. It's not a bandit, not a guard, just a man. Older, lean, wearing a cloak made of woven reeds with painted stripes on his cheeks. His eyes are calm, his hands empty. He doesn't speak. You nod. Step aside. He walks past without looking at you. But after he's gone, you realise he had no pack, no tools, no shoes. You check behind you. He's already vanished. The jungle eats its guests quickly. You keep going. Your coca leaves are almost gone. Your legs are soaked, not from sweat, but from crossing a flooded stretch of trail that smelled strongly of rotting fruit and regret. Something brushed your calf while you waded. You didn't look. The trees shift again. Taller now, less underbrush. The path curves along a ridge above a stream, and suddenly you see it. A tampu. But not an imperial one. This is something else. Built of bamboo and clay, set back from the trail, half hidden by leaves. Smoke curls from a stone ring. A low platform holds bundles of wrapped maize and dried leaves, and sitting beside the fire are 3 women, old enough to remember the sun before the Empire. They look up at you and smile. You approach slowly. They don't ask for the sipu. They just motion for you to sit. You do. They hand you a bowl of something thick and earthy. Chicha, brewed from maize and something fermented. You sip. It's sour. Strange. But it pulls the tension from your limbs like nothing else. Finally, one of the women nods to your pouch. You untie the quipu and place it gently before them. They don't touch it. They hum. A low droning tone. Not a song, not a chant. A tuning, almost. Like they're waiting for the message to hum back. You don't understand. And that's fine. One of them finally lifts the quipu, examines the knots, then places it into a woven tube, sealed at both ends, bound with clay. Message delivered. They hand you a new one, lighter, fewer knots, fewer strands, urgent. You glance at the colours, blue, brown and red. A rain message. Weather report? Emergency planning? Or something bigger? The elder meets your eyes. Her voice is quiet. Storm's coming. You nod, stand and bow slightly. As you leave, she says, "Runner, do you sleep?" You stop. "Turn." "No," you answer honestly. She smiles. "Good. Keep moving." You descend again, this time toward the flood basin, where the jungle thins into wet marshland and the paths become half water, half memory. Your feet splash. Your pouch bounces. You run. Because yes, there's a storm coming, and you don't know what the message says. But the road wants it there. Before the first lightning touches the earth, the marsh begins before you see it. First it's the smell. Damp, earthy, a blend of rotting leaves and something faintly metallic. Then it's the sound. Frogs clicking in syncopated rhythms, insects like static, the distant thrum of thunder already pressing at the far edges of your hearing. You keep running. The jungle thins into floodplain, flat and trembling, full of shallow pools and mud that pretends to be solid. The path becomes more suggestion than reality, just a raised line of packed earth, bordered by reeds and watery uncertainty. Your sandals sink a little more with each step. You've entered the Yaku Road, named for water. This stretch of the Qhapaq is seasonal, passable only during the dry months, barely so during the rains. It's also among the least travelled because very few messages need to move this way. Only Chasquis with urgent deliveries or questionable luck end up here. Lucky you. You take the first few miles slowly, not from caution. Your body is simply tired. Your calves pulse with heat. Your heels are raw. And somewhere between your shoulder blades, a knot of pain has decided it lives here now. You shift the quipu pouch forward slightly, letting the weight rest differently. This message feels strange. Not heavy, not long, but important. The blue and brown cords twist together with knots you don't recognise. The red strand runs straight through, unbroken. Rain message. But you don't think this is just about crops. You begin to notice things. Birds flying away from the east. A colony of ants migrating in a straight, desperate line. Trees with their leaves curled inward. And the wind, when it comes, is wrong. Hot. Circular. Whipping your tunic sideways instead of forward. It tugs at your sash like a child trying to warn you. You pick up your pace. No tampas here. No other runners. Just markers carved into trees. Spiral symbols, faded dyes, and the occasional white feather knotted into bark. The storm isn't just coming, it's here. The first lightning bolt splits the sky behind you, so bright it flashes white through the water. Thunder follows hard and fast, closer than you'd hoped. The rain starts like a curtain, sudden, solid, a wall of water falling from nowhere. You don't stop. Your feet splash through rising pools. You slip once, catch yourself, then keep going. The trail is mud now, pure and simple. Every step is a battle to stay upright. Then you hit the causeway, a raised stone track barely visible under the murky water. It cuts straight across the marsh, a relic of Inca engineering designed for just this kind of season. You wade onto it, water to your ankles, sandals dragging. The wind roars. Rain pelts your face. Your quipu is soaked, but the cord is knotted tight, its meaning safe inside. You hold it close. Somewhere, something crashes. A tree, maybe, or a roof. You don't stop to check. Then, up ahead, movement, figures. You blink through the rain. A line of villagers, 5, maybe 6 people, carrying bundles on their heads, trudging in the opposite direction. One of them sees your headband, your sash, your pouch. They part. An old woman grabs your wrist as you pass. Her voice is ragged. The river's breaching. Don't stop. You nod, breathless, and keep running. Another flash of lightning, this time closer. You can feel the charge snap in the air. The causeway narrows, then curves, rising above the marsh. The ground firms, you hit higher ground, and then you see it. A tampu, barely standing. Walls of stone, but the roof is long gone. A man waves from the doorway. His tunic clings to his ribs. His face is carved from years and wind. You stagger inside. The space is dry. Barely. A fire flickers in a hollow in the wall protected by stone. A clay jar of water sits beside a folded poncho. The man doesn't speak, just motions to the stone bench. You collapse onto it, gasping. He nods once, then takes the quipu from your hand. His fingers pause on the red strand. He reads it slowly, silently, then says, This one is for now." You don't answer. You couldn't if you tried. He steps outside, hands the quipu to a younger runner waiting just beyond the door, soaked, barefoot, wide-eyed. The boy takes it and sprints into the rain. Gone. The storm howls. The tampu shakes. You peel off your pouch, your sash, your tunic. Lay them near the fire. Steam rises from your shoulders. Your breath comes back in short bursts. The tampu keeper brings you a bowl. It's full of boiled yucca and river greens, plain but warm. You eat it without speaking. It tastes like survival. After a while, the keeper sits across from you. "That message," he says, "was to shift a river wall. The eastern village wasn't warned." You nod slowly. You may have just saved it, or arrived just late enough. He doesn't say which. You lie back against the stone wall and close your eyes. The rain slams against the tampu roof like a warning drum. You hear it, you listen. You dream of feathers, of braids, of messages that tangle in your hands and dissolve before you can deliver them. But most of all, you dream of feet still running, even in your sleep. Because tomorrow, the road bends again, and Chasquis don't stop. You wake to silence. The kind of silence that follows something loud, like a breath the world has been holding finally exhaled. The storm is gone. The rain too. The tampu no longer shakes. Outside, the air is heavy and clean, like the jungle's been rinsed and set back into place. You sit up slowly. Everything hurts, but differently now. Not the searing pain of strain or fear. This is the soreness of almost finished. The quiet ache of a body that's carried too many miles and too much weight and knows it's close to release. The tampu keeper is gone, but someone's left a strip of dried mango and a gourd of water at your feet. You eat in silence, drink slowly. The warmth of the tampu's tiny fire still clings to your tunic like a remembered hug. You roll your shoulders, stand. Time to move again. The last route is short. The message, the next one, is already packed and tied by the door. A simple quipu, yellow and white. One cord, barely knotted. You take it without question. You step outside into a world remade. The trail ahead steams in the dawn light. Mud glistens. Branches drip. The insects are quiet. Even the birds seem reverent. You begin to run, one last time. The jungle here is lighter, the trail better kept. The path widens and soon you begin to see fields. Neatly carved terraces dotted with maize and cassava stretching up the slopes. Children wave at you as you pass. A woman shouts a greeting. A man offers a slice of papaya. You wave but don't stop. Ahead, the trail curves around a hill and suddenly, there it is. The coast. Again. But this time, not wild and wind-battered. This is a settlement, proper and calm. White clay buildings, palm trees swaying, boats bobbing at anchor in the bay. Your final stop is a tampu beside the docks. It's large, clean, and busy. Not a hidden message station, not a cliff village, just a place where messages end. You cross the plaza. A man in a turquoise sash meets you at the threshold. You present the quipu. He unties it, reads it quickly, nods. That was the weather report? You shrug. I just run, he smiles. Well, it reached us. And just in time. We'll hold the boats. You nod, unsure what that means. Probably important. Probably something about crops, or wind, or ocean trade. But it's no longer your burden. You turn away and walk down to the shoreline. The tide is out. The beach is empty except for a single broken canoe and a pile of dried fish on a reed mat. You sit near the water, toes in the warm sand, and close your eyes. The road is behind you. You don't know if you'll be sent out again tomorrow. You don't know if there's a next run. Some chasqui don't get to stop. They're reassigned, recycled, sent north, or east, or vanish without ceremony. But maybe not today. Maybe today you've earned this moment. Maybe today the Empire lets you rest. You lie back in the sand, fingers laced behind your head, the surf whispering ancient lullabies in your ears, and for the first time in weeks you let your muscles melt. You let your chest rise and fall without urgency. You let go. Because today you delivered everything and you survived. Wind down, approx 300 words. The air is soft now. It brushes your skin like a worn wool blanket, warm at first, then fading to coolness, like evening easing into place. The sky above the coast has turned pale lavender, that quiet moment just before the stars begin to blink into view. You're still lying on the sand, the pulse of the ocean thumping gently at your feet, slower now, quieter, like even the sea is resting with you. Your legs no longer ache. They float, weightless in the hush of twilight. Your shoulders sink deeper into the sand, every grain cradling you. Every sound is muffled, gentle, carried by the wind, softened by distance. The squawk of birds in the distance, the faint creak of a dock, the whisper of a reed mat catching the breeze. Your breath, too, has slowed. No longer fast, no longer chased. It comes in deep, even tides, like the surf, like the world, like sleep itself. You think of the road, not with dread, but with the strange fondness of something you've conquered. The sharp stones, the high passes, the jungle mists, the winding causeways and quiet tampas. You remember the quipus in your hands, the knots, the messages, the trust. And now? There are no cords to carry, no hills to climb, only the slow descent into dreams. So let your eyes close now. Let the last flicker of torchlight fade into black. Let the Empire run without you for a little while, because tonight you rest. 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 You rest.